Deep below the ocean, where sunlight is completely gone, the giant squid lives in a world few predators can reach. The water is freezing. The pressure is crushing. Every movement disappears into darkness. Down there, a giant squid should feel safe. It has enormous eyes built to detect the smallest flash of light, 10 powerful limbs, hundreds of suckers lined with hard, sharp rings, and a body large enough to make most hunters think twice before getting close. But the darkness does not protect it from everything. There is one fish that follows it down. Not a whale, not a shark, a swordfish. It leaves the warm surface and dives into cold water, where most large fish begin to slow down. Its muscles lose power. Its prey becomes sluggish. Even vision starts to fail. But the swordfish keeps hunting. Somewhere behind its eyes, it carries an adaptation that lets it detect movement when almost everything around it is struggling with the cold. It can see a faint flash, a moving tentacle, or the shadow of prey in water that looks completely black to us. And on the front of its head is a blade that can take up nearly 1/3 of its body length. So what happens when a fast predator carrying a sword enters the territory of the largest invertebrate on Earth? No camera has ever recorded the full encounter, but swordfish have been found with circular scars across their bodies, marks that look disturbingly similar to the suckers of large squid. And remains of squid have occasionally been discovered inside their stomachs. Something is happening down there. Something violent. The obvious assumption is that the swordfish charges forward and stabs its prey. But that is not how its weapon really works. And once you understand what that blade is actually designed to do, the swordfish becomes far more dangerous than it first appears. The first time you see a swordfish, it's easy to assume you already know how it hunts. It has a long blade sticking out from its face, so the obvious answer is that it stabs its prey. That sounds right. It just isn't. The swordfish doesn't usually charge straight through a fish like a knight with a lance. Most of the time, it hunts in a much smarter way. Instead of driving the bill forward, it swings it from side to side with incredible speed. One powerful sweep can stun a whole school of fish. Smaller prey may be knocked unconscious instantly. Larger animals can be slashed or injured just enough to slow them down. Once the target loses its advantage, the swordfish simply turns back and eats it. That single blade does almost everything. It can strike, cut, disable, and even break larger prey into pieces that are easier to swallow. It's less like a spear and more like a razor-sharp machete moving through the water. That's what makes it so effective. At first glance, swordfish look a lot like marlins and sailfish. They all carry long bills, they all swim fast, and they all sit near the top of the ocean food chain. But don't let the similarities fool you. Their weapons aren't built for exactly the same job. The swordfish follows its own strategy. And that's something nature does all the time. The more unusual a weapon looks, the easier it is for us to misunderstand what it was actually designed to do. We focus on how it looks instead of how it works. The swordfish proves that perfectly. Its greatest weapon isn't just the blade itself, it's the way that blade is used. And as impressive as that is, the real story hasn't even started yet. Because a blade only becomes truly frightening when it's carried into a place where almost no other predator is willing or even able to go. Most ocean predators stay where life is easier. They hunt in warm water. There's plenty of light. Their muscles work at full strength, and their eyes can spot prey from a distance. The swordfish doesn't think that way. Every single day, after spending time near the surface, it does something that almost no other large open ocean fish is willing to do. It dives. Not just a little deeper. It leaves the sunlight behind and drops into the mesopelagic zone, often called the twilight zone. This is the part of the ocean where daylight slowly disappears. The deeper you go, the darker everything becomes. On a normal hunting trip, a swordfish may dive anywhere from around 650 to more than 2,600 feet. Some have been tracked below 3,000 feet, and one recorded individual reached more than 5,400 feet. Down there, the ocean feels like a completely different planet. The water turns ice cold. The pressure becomes almost impossible to imagine. Sunlight is gone, replaced only by tiny flashes from glowing sea creatures drifting through the darkness. It doesn't look like a place where a fast hunter should have any advantage. In fact, it should be the opposite. Swordfish are cold-blooded animals. That means their body temperature depends on the water around them. Normally, colder water slows everything down. Muscles react more slowly. Vision becomes less effective. Quick movements become harder to control. By all logic, this should be the last place a swordfish would choose to hunt. But it keeps coming back, day after day. It dives into the cold on purpose. That tells us something important. The swordfish isn't surviving in this environment by luck. It has a way of overcoming a problem that limits almost every other fish. And once you realize what that adaptation is, everything about its hunting strategy starts to make sense. Because here's the real question. If the freezing water should be slowing down its body, and even its eyes and brain should be affected by the cold, how can a swordfish still track the slightest movement of a squid's tentacle in almost complete darkness? So, how does a swordfish keep hunting in water that should slow almost everything down? The answer isn't in its muscles. It's behind its eyes. At some point in its evolution, one of the muscles that normally helps move the eye took on a completely different job. Instead of focusing on movement, it became a heat-producing organ. Think about that for a second. The swordfish gave up part of an eye muscle just to stay warm where it mattered most. That tissue is packed with mitochondria and tiny blood vessels. It burns energy around the clock, creating heat even in freezing water. But making heat is only half the story. The really clever part is how the fish keeps that heat from escaping. Its blood vessels are arranged so that warm blood leaving the heater transfers its heat to colder blood coming back in. Instead of losing warmth to the surrounding water, the swordfish recycles it. As a result, its eyes and brain stay much warmer than the water around them. That changes everything. In the deep ocean, cold slows down almost every animal. Eyes process information more slowly. Reactions become delayed. Even if prey notices danger, it often can't respond fast enough. The swordfish doesn't have that problem. Its visual system keeps working at a speed that most deep-sea animals simply can't match. It can pick up the faint glow of bioluminescent creatures, notice the smallest movement, and react before its prey even realizes it's been seen. That's a huge advantage in a place where every second matters. The deeper the swordfish goes, the more that advantage grows. And maybe that's the most impressive part of all. The swordfish doesn't need to see every detail in the darkness. It just needs to see faster than the animal trying to get away. This is where the story gets really interesting. The deeper a swordfish dives, the greater the chance that it enters the world of the giant squid. And that's no ordinary prey. A fully grown giant squid can stretch over 40 feet long. It has the largest eyes of any animal on Earth, built to detect the faintest light in the deep sea. It carries 8 powerful arms and 2 long feeding tentacles, all covered with hundreds of sharp, gripping suckers. Down there, very few predators can challenge something like that. But the evidence suggests the swordfish sometimes does. Not because we've seen it happen. We haven't. No one has ever filmed a swordfish fighting a giant squid in the wild. The deep ocean is simply too difficult to observe, and encounters like this remain hidden from us. What we do have are clues. Some swordfish have been found with perfectly round scars across their bodies. The marks closely match the pattern left by large squid suckers. In other cases, researchers have found remains of large squid inside swordfish stomachs. Those clues don't show us the fight, but they strongly suggest that these two animals have crossed paths. If that happens, the swordfish probably isn't trying to overpower the squid the way a sperm whale does. It doesn't have the size or weight for that kind of battle. Speed is likely its greatest advantage. Instead of charging straight into a mass of arms and tentacles, the swordfish appears better suited for quick attacks. A fast, sideways swing of its bill could injure or disable the tentacles first, making it much harder for the squid to fight back before the swordfish closes in. That idea fits what we know about its hunting style. It's fast, it's precise, and it avoids taking unnecessary risks. In the end, the giant squid may have the advantage in size, but the swordfish brings something completely different into the fight. The right weapon, the right environment, and the ability to move and react when the freezing water is slowing everything else down. Sometimes, that's all a predator needs. At first glance, a swordfish doesn't seem all that unusual. Put it next to a marlin or a sailfish, and most people would probably think they're close relatives. They all have long bills, they all swim fast, and they all rank among the ocean's top predators. But looks can be misleading. The biggest clue is right in front of you. A marlin's bill is round, almost like a spear. It's built to pierce through the water with as little resistance as possible. A swordfish is different. Its bill is flat, wide, sharp along both edges. It looks less like a spear and more like a blade. That isn't just a small design change. It tells the story of a completely different evolutionary path. Even though these fish look similar, they don't belong to the same family. In fact, the swordfish is the only living member left of its own family. It doesn't really have a close relative still alive today. And somehow, that makes it even more fascinating. The fossil record suggests that millions of years ago, the ancestors of swordfish didn't have a single long blade. They had two. Both the upper and lower jaws stretched forward, creating something that looked more like a double bill than the weapon we see today. Then, evolution started making changes. Not all at once, little by little. The lower jaw became shorter over countless generations until it eventually disappeared as a weapon. The upper jaw kept growing longer, flatter, and sharper, turning into the blade that defines the modern swordfish. I think that's one of the most interesting things about evolution. It rarely throws everything away and starts over. Instead, it keeps working with what's already there. It reshapes old parts, keeps the features that help an animal survive, and slowly gets rid of the ones that no longer serve a purpose. The swordfish is a perfect example of that process. It wasn't created overnight. It became what it is through millions of years of small improvements, each one making it just a little better suited for the life it was built to live. And evolution wasn't finished yet, because even after a swordfish is born, its body continues changing in ways that make it look almost like a completely different animal by the time it reaches adulthood. One of the strangest things about a swordfish is that it doesn't start life looking like one. If you saw a baby swordfish, you probably wouldn't recognize it. It's tiny. It has scales covering its body. It has teeth. And at that stage, there's no sign of the smooth, powerful hunter it will eventually become. Like many young fish, it spends its early life feeding on much smaller prey in shallow water. But as it grows, something remarkable happens. It doesn't just get bigger. It starts getting rid of things. The scales slowly disappear until the skin becomes completely smooth. That may not sound like a big deal, but every little bit of drag matters when your survival depends on speed. A smoother body moves through the water more efficiently, especially during high-speed hunts. Then the teeth disappear too. That sounds completely backwards for an apex predator. You'd expect one of the ocean's top hunters to have rows of sharp teeth. Instead, an adult swordfish has none. And honestly, it doesn't need them. By that point, the bill has taken over much of the work teeth would normally do. It can stun prey, slash larger animals, and break food into pieces that are easy to swallow. The blade has become a multi-purpose tool, making teeth almost unnecessary. The changes don't stop there. The pelvic fins gradually disappear as well, leaving the body even cleaner and more streamlined. Every unnecessary feature is slowly removed, making the fish faster and more efficient in open water. When you step back and look at the whole process, a clear pattern starts to appear. The swordfish isn't adding new weapons as it grows. It's simplifying itself. Nature keeps stripping away anything that slows it down and keeps only what helps it survive. I think that's what makes this animal so unique. Most of us think evolution is about adding more features. Sometimes it's the exact opposite. Sometimes becoming better means letting go. And maybe the biggest surprise of all is this: an apex predator without teeth sounds like a design flaw. For the swordfish, it turns out teeth were the unnecessary part all along. The more I learned about a swordfish, the more one question kept coming back. How does that bill survive? Think about what it goes through every single day. A fish weighing hundreds of pounds is swinging a bone that's nearly 1/3 of its body length. Every strike sends a powerful shock back toward the skull. Over the years, that adds up to thousands of heavy impacts. Most bones wouldn't hold up very well under that kind of punishment. But a swordfish's bill isn't built like an ordinary bone. Researchers found that it's designed differently from front to back. The tip is packed with minerals, making it extremely hard. That's the part that hits the target, so it needs to deliver as much force as possible. As you move closer to the head, though, the structure changes. The bone becomes more porous and a little more flexible. Instead of passing every shock straight into the skull, it absorbs and spreads out much of the impact. It's a simple idea, but a brilliant one. The front is built to hit. The back is built to survive the hit. Then scientists noticed something even stranger. When they looked at the bill under a microscope, they expected to find osteocytes, the bone cells that are normally found throughout the skeleton of most vertebrates. Instead, they found almost none. At first, that didn't make much sense. If those cells are missing, how does the bill stay healthy after taking so many hard blows? The answer showed up in broken bills. Researchers found evidence that damaged swordfish bills were still repairing themselves. They still contained the cells responsible for breaking down damaged bone and building new bone. Even without the usual network of osteocytes, the healing process was still happening. That discovery surprised a lot of scientists. It suggested that bone repair might not always work the way we thought it did, and it encouraged researchers to take a closer look at how skeletal healing actually works. The swordfish wasn't rewriting biology, but it was definitely making people ask new questions. And I think that's what makes this animal so fascinating. Its sword isn't indestructible. It cracks. It wears down. It takes incredible punishment. The reason it keeps working isn't because it never gets damaged. It's because it was built to keep functioning even after the damage begins. By now, it's pretty clear that almost every part of a swordfish has been shaped for one thing: speed. But there's one small detail that most people never hear about. Near the base of its bill is a specialized gland that produces an oily substance. That oil doesn't stay inside the fish. It moves through tiny channels and reaches the surface of the head. Scientists believe it works together with the swordfish's smooth, scaleless skin to reduce friction as it moves through the water. It's not a huge change on its own, but when your entire life depends on swimming efficiently, even a small reduction in drag can make a difference. Then there's another myth that refuses to go away. You've probably heard that swordfish can swim over 60 miles per hour. It sounds impressive. The problem is, the evidence doesn't really support it. Those numbers mostly came from old observations and estimates, not careful scientific measurements. When researchers looked at the fish's muscles, body design, and the physics of moving through water, they came up with a much more realistic top speed, around 34 miles per hour. That might sound slower than expected, but it's still incredibly fast for such a large animal moving through water, which is far denser than air. So why doesn't the swordfish just go even faster? Because eventually, the water itself becomes the problem. As something moves through water at extremely high speed, pressure around parts of its body begins to change. Tiny vapor bubbles can form, then collapse almost instantly. That process is called cavitation. It may sound harmless, but those collapsing bubbles release powerful bursts of energy. Over time, they can damage soft tissue, including fins and other delicate structures. In other words, the swordfish isn't running out of strength. It's running into the limits of physics. I think that's one of the coolest parts of its story. This animal isn't held back by fear. It isn't held back by a lack of power. It's held back by the moment the water itself starts pushing back hard enough to damage the body that evolution spent millions of years perfecting. The more you look at a swordfish, the more it starts to feel less like an animal and more like a machine. A machine built for one job: hunt. From the moment it's born, it grows at an incredible pace. In just a few years, it can reach a size that many large predators spend much longer trying to achieve. But growth like that comes with a cost. Nothing in nature is free. A swordfish needs an enormous amount of food to keep its body running. Its heater organ burns energy constantly. Every deep dive takes effort. Every hunt demands speed, power, and precision. There's no easy mode, no long breaks, no season where life suddenly slows down. If the swordfish wants to keep going, it has to keep hunting. That constant demand shapes the way it lives. Unlike dolphins or orcas, swordfish don't spend their lives surrounded by family groups. An adult needs a huge hunting range just to find enough food. If too many shared the same area, there simply wouldn't be enough prey to support them all. So, most of the time, they live alone. They come together mainly during spawning, when eggs and sperm are released into the open ocean. After that, each fish goes its own way again. It's a quiet life, just one hunter moving through an endless ocean. But even a body this specialized has limits. Years of non-stop hunting take their toll. Parasites can build up on the gills, making it harder for the fish to pull oxygen from the water. As that happens, every dive becomes more difficult, even though the ocean around it is still full of oxygen. In the end, the problem isn't the water, it's the body slowly wearing out. Compared with some other apex predators, swordfish don't live very long. According to the evidence discussed in this video, most live only around 9 years on average, even though some females can reach much older ages. I think that's the part that stayed with me the most. The swordfish was built to win almost every hunt, but it was never built to last forever. Nature gave it incredible speed, remarkable adaptations, and one of the most specialized hunting tools in the ocean. Then, it quietly asked for something in return: time. When we started this journey, we were looking into the darkness, wondering what could possibly threaten a giant squid in a place where almost nothing else could survive. The answer wasn't the biggest predator. It wasn't the strongest one either. The swordfish doesn't have the crushing power of a sperm whale. It doesn't have the massive size of the ocean's giants. And it certainly isn't the animal with the strongest bite. What it has is something different. It has the right tool for the right environment. Every part of its body tells the same story. Its heated eyes, its streamlined shape, its self-repairing bill. Even the way it gives up scales and teeth as it grows points to one goal: become a better hunter. The sword on its face is impressive, but that's not the most remarkable thing about this animal. The truly incredible part is that its entire body has been reshaped over millions of years to serve that one blade. Almost every adaptation it carries exists to make that weapon more effective. And maybe that's the biggest lesson nature leaves us with. Perfection always comes at a price. The swordfish became one of the most specialized hunters the ocean has ever produced. But it paid for that perfection with a life that burns fast, demands constant effort, and is often spent completely alone. If you enjoyed discovering the science behind one of the ocean's most extraordinary predators, make sure to subscribe to Predator Archives. We're just getting started. Let us know in the comments which incredible ocean giant you'd like to explore next. The giant squid, the blue whale, or maybe the mysterious ocean sunfish. Whatever you choose, we'll dive into the science and uncover the story hidden beneath the surface. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next adventure.